Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Star Wars news video with a little bit of Marvel news sprinkled in the middle. This video is going to be made up of a few different news pieces that came out over the last week or so, but they were all either dismissed or rather small bits of confirmation that I didn't think could make a standalone video, so I've put them all together here as a little news rundown of recent developments in Star Wars games as well as a new Marvel game potentially being in development. First up is just I'm going to edit this into the start of the video, but it seems that there is a Mandalorian video game in development, but there is literally no other information on that, so I'm just going to cut this back in right at the start of the video, so that if you haven't lasted this long, you will at least have known about it from just watching the first minute or so. So this is a bit weird for the time paradox at the moment. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, but I'm recording this at the end of the video, but enjoy the rest. First up is just a continuation of a rumour that I covered in a recent video, and it was about a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake being in development but not being made by EA. That was as much as we knew about this before, but now it is confirmed by Jason Schreier, who is basically the go-to guy for rumours. If he says something's happening, 99% of the time that is exactly what's happening. He's got very good sources, and he also only reports on something that he is confident is happening. And so the Knights of the Old Republic remake is being made by Aspyr Media, which is the same studio that ported the original game onto iOS, which is just onto mobiles. And while they are generally known for porting games, they are working on a proper remake of Knights of the Old Republic, which came out back in 2003. There's no release window that's been given for this remake coming out, which makes me think it's in the very early stages of development. And there is also no additional information on how much of a remake this is, whether it will be more of a remaster or if it's a complete remake that makes it genuinely look like a game that has just come out on the current gen. The fact that it's being made by Aspyr as well, who have worked on ports before rather than having any genuine experience on top tier remakes, makes me think it's going to be more of a remaster for this next generation than a complete remake. If you look at a team like Bluepoint Games, who are basically the kings of remasters, early on they made more simple remasters and remakes such as the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, which clearly looks so much better than the originals, but could also not be mistaken for games that had just come out on this generation. They never ended up looking like Uncharted 4 or Lost Legacy, but then have just released Demon's Souls for the PS5, which is a complete remake, and if someone didn't know about the Demon's Souls and Dark Souls series, they would genuinely believe this was a completely new game that had been built for the next generation. And I don't think this one's going to be that high quality. I think it'll be more of a remaster than a complete remake. But any way that they can bring Knights of the Old Republic into this generation is a win, basically, for all of us. But hopping over to some Marvel news for now, and some very exciting Marvel news at that, because according to a fairly notable leaker and industry insider, Daniel Richtman, NetherRealm, who are the developers of the Mortal Kombat franchise, as well as Injustice and Injustice 2, they are apparently developing a Marvel fighting game for the next generation of consoles. That is basically as much as we've been given. The details are completely bare bone, but apparently the game is already in production, and this is unbelievably good news. Even as someone myself who I bought Injustice 2 when it was in a sale, and I've played a couple of Mortal Kombats when they were like free over a weekend, and I did really enjoy them, I was never someone who got good at fighting games, and yet I'm so excited for this because the quality of storytelling, especially in Injustice and Injustice 2, is unbelievable. Mortal Kombat has already built up so many characters and so many storylines that they went completely all out with Mortal Kombat 11, but Injustice and Injustice 2 had serious direction and was genuinely a top tier story and campaign to play through, and to see them do that with Marvel characters, who knows what storyline they'd pick if they take a completely original one, but giving a NetherRealm spin on the MCU is not a bad thing in any way, shape or form. It'll be interesting to see whether NetherRealm are also currently developing Injustice 3, because you would expect that to come out in the next year or two, then maybe followed by this Marvel game, and dare I say it, if NetherRealm have access to both the property of DC and Marvel, could you imagine those two clashing in a game, all of them in one, like they did with Mortal Kombat versus the DC universe, but better, because there's some consistency here. With DC and Mortal Kombat, you either have to have Batman killing someone with blood and ripping hearts out to make it consistent with Mortal Kombat, or you have to have Scorpion cutting an enemy in half, but but there being next to no blood, and they'd have to really tame down Mortal Kombat to fit in with the DC universe. But Marvel and DC, as much as they clearly have their differences, can both fit into the same PG rating, and seeing them square off is the sort of thing that you just wouldn't see anymore, because they're not going to make a film containing any of these characters. The best way to do that is in a game, and for a storyline like that, there is no better way than a fighting game developed by NetherRealm. If you look at Injustice 2, there were some skins that coincided with Justice League. You had a Flash skin, you had an Aquaman skin and his trident, as well as a Batman with goggles and a Wonder Woman skin. So they could absolutely bring MCU skins into this in such high quality, as they are starting to do with Marvel's Avengers as well. And it would absolutely make sense after Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which was just kind of meh as a fighting game, that Marvel would then turn to NetherRealm, who are undoubtedly the kings of this genre of gaming, for what is basically an easy win for Marvel, because they know that NetherRealm will smash this out of the park and do all of the Marvel characters justice and give all of us fans a chance to create our dream matchups. Again, you would assume this is in very early production, and I would also assume that an Injustice 3 would be the next game NetherRealm release. So this is more of a get excited about it for now, but don't spend every day thinking about it, because it's clearly a while away, but hopefully it is actually coming and we have something to look forward to. And finally, the sad news, the final piece of Star Wars news, is that this supposed Battlefront 3 leak of Coruscant's game model being developed is completely fake. It's not very surprising, but it did do the rounds online. YouTube channels like Star Wars HQ even made a full video on it, which I avoided because it did look very dodgy at the start anyway. But Battlefront FR clearly disproved this by just showing that this was just a 3D model that anybody can download, and they can create this themselves and just claim it's Battlefront 3. It's definitely not. Don't get your hopes up, this is not a confirmation of anything happening. As much as it could be happening, nothing has genuinely been released to show us this. So if you are someone who wants to see Battlefront 3 released, but also doesn't want to get let down by all these rumours, I wouldn't recommend taking anything that Star Wars HQ posts as divine prophecy. But basically, to anyone who is looking for Star Wars Battlefront 3 reveals, now is just not the lucky time. And if it does happen, I doubt it will happen at this EA Play, with their whole focus being on the new Battlefield game that is coming out this year. And with so many devs working on that game, it wouldn't really make sense for them to reveal Battlefront 3 at the same time, because they'd risk either Battlefront 3 going under the radar and all the focus staying on Battlefield, or Battlefront 3 would eclipse Battlefield, and the new next-gen title that's coming out this year is going to get overshadowed by a game that's not coming out for a long time. So either way, EA would lose out on the hype for one of their properties, and it doesn't really make sense for them to reveal Battlefront 3 with basically no devs working on it at the moment. And also, I'm going to edit this in to the start of the video, but it seems that there is a Mandalorian video game in development. So this is a bit weird for the time paradox at the moment, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. I'm recording this at the end of the video, but enjoy the rest. And that is all the news that I think is worth sharing with you guys from the last week or so. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to leave a like, and let me know down below, out of these 4 projects, the Mandalorian, the KOTOR remake, the Marvel fighting game, or Battlefront 3, which one of those would you rather see happen? I know the answer is most likely going to be Battlefront 3, especially because of the audience that I've built from here, but I would love to know any of your preferences. Subscribe if you did enjoy, and hopefully I will see you next time.